Kyrgyzstan is a landlocked country in Central Asia, lying in Tian Shan and Pamir mountain ranges. Bishkek is the capital and largest city. Kyrgyzstan is bordered by Kazakhstan to the north, Uzbekistan to the west, Tajikistan to the south, China to the east and southeast. Ethnic KYRGYZ make up majority of the country's over 7 million people, followed by significant minorities of Uzbeks and Russians. Kyrgyzstan's history spans variety of cultures and empires. Although geographically isolated by its highly mountainous terrain, Kyrgyzstan has been at the crossroads of several great civilizations as part of Silk Road along with other commercial routes. Inhabited by a succession of tribes and clans, Kyrgyzstan has periodically fallen under larger domination, for example the Turkic nomads who trace their ancestry to many Turkic states. It was first established as Yenisei-KYRGYZ Khaganate. Later in 13th century, Kyrgyzstan was conquered by Mongol Empire and under several Mongol dynasties. It regained independence but was later invaded by Dzungar Khanate. After the fall of Dzungars, KYRGYZ and Kipchaks were an integral part of Kokand Khanate. In 1876, Kyrgyzstan became part of Russian Empire. In 1936, Kyrgyz Soviet Socialist Republic was formed to become a constituent republic of Soviet Union. Following Mikhail Gorbachev's democratic reforms in USSR, in 1990 pro-independence candidate Askar Akayev was elected president. On the 31st of August, 1991, Kyrgyzstan declared independence from USSR and a democratic government established. Kyrgyzstan attained sovereignty as a nation-state after breakup of Soviet Union in 1991. After independence, Kyrgyzstan was officially a unitary presidential republic. After Tulip Revolution, it became a unitary parliamentary republic. However, it gradually developed an executive president and was governed as semi-presidential republic before reverting to presidential system in 2021. Throughout its existence, the country continued to endure ethnic conflicts, revolts, economic troubles, transitional governments and political conflict. Kyrgyzstan is a member of Commonwealth of Independent States, Eurasian Economic Union, Collective Security Treaty Organization, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, Organization of Turkic States, Turksoy Community, and the United Nations. It is a developing country ranked 117th in the Human Development Index and is the second poorest country in Central Asia after neighboring Tajikistan. The country's transitional economy is heavily dependent on deposits of gold, coal, and uranium. Kyrgyzstan is a landlocked country in Central Asia, bordering Kazakhstan, China, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. It lies between latitudes 39 degrees and 44 degrees north, and longitudes 69 degrees and 81 degrees east. It is farther from the sea than any other individual country, and all its rivers flow into closed drainage systems which do not reach the sea. The mountainous region of Tian Shan covers over 80% of the country. Kyrgyzstan is occasionally referred to as Switzerland of Central Asia, with the remainder made up of valleys and basins. Issyk-Kul Lake or Issyk-Kul in KYRGYZ, in the northeastern Tian Shan is the largest lake in Kyrgyzstan and the second largest mountain lake in the world after Titicaca. The lowest point is in Kara-Darya, at 132 meters. The highest peaks are in Kakshal-2 range, forming the Chinese border. Peak Jengish-Chokusu at 7,439 meters is the highest point and considered by geologists to be the northernmost peak over 7,000 meters in the world. Heavy snowfall in winter leads to spring floods which often cause serious damage downstream. The runoff from the mountains is also used for hydroelectricity. Kyrgyzstan has significant deposits of metals including gold and rare earth metals. Due to the country's predominantly mountainous terrain, less than 8% of the land is cultivated and concentrated in the northern lowlands and fringes of Fergana Valley. Bishkek in the north is the capital and largest city with 1,128,000 inhabitants as of 2024. The second city is ancient town of Osh, located in Fergana Valley near the border with Uzbekistan. Principal river is Kara-Darya which flows west through Fergana Valley into Uzbekistan. Across the border in Uzbekistan it meets another major KYRGYZ river, Narin. The confluence forms Syr Doria, which originally flowed into Aral Sea. As of 2010, it no longer reaches the sea, as its water withdrawn upstream to irrigate cotton fields in Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and southern Kazakhstan. The Chu River also briefly flows through Kyrgyzstan before entering Kazakhstan. Kyrgyzstan contains 7 terrestrial ecosystems: Tian Shan montane conifer forests, Alai Western Tian Shan steppe, Jisaro Alai open woodlands, Tian Shan foothill arid steppe, Pamir alpine desert and tundra, Tian Shan montane steppe and meadows, and Central Asian northern desert. Climate varies regionally. The low-lying Fergana Valley in southwest is subtropical and extremely hot in summer, with temperatures reaching 40 degrees Celsius. The northern foothills are temperate, and Tian Shan varies from dry continental to polar climate, depending on elevation. In the coldest areas, winter temperatures drop below freezing for approximately 40 days, and even some desert areas experience constant snowfall during this period. In the lowlands, temperature ranges from around -6 degrees Celsius in January to 24 degrees Celsius in July. Climate change is evident in Kyrgyzstan. Among the countries in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan is the third most vulnerable to the effects of climate change, such as changes in weather patterns that could lead to prolonged periods of precipitation and drought. Moreover, frequent occurrence of extreme weather and climate events such as heat waves, droughts, heavy rainfalls, and biotic-abiotic catastrophes during recent years are evidence of climate change. Kyrgyzstan is threatened with glacier melting and lack of freshwater balance, which accelerated by global warming. The average temperature has increased from 4.8 degrees Celsius to 6 degrees Celsius so far within the last 20 years. In 2013, World Bank estimated likely increase of 2 degrees Celsius in average mean temperature by 2060 and of 4 to 5 degrees Celsius by 2100, noting that the country's glacier were significantly reduced and projected to decline further. A significant warming trend in Kyrgyzstan, with a projected increase of 6 degrees Celsius under the shared socio-economic pathway scenario from 2076 to 2096. There is one exclave, tiny village of Barak with population 627 in Fergana Valley. The village is surrounded by Uzbek territory. It is located on the road from Osh, Kyrgyzstan, to Kodjabad, Uzbekistan, about 4 kilometers northwest from KYRGYZ Uzbek border in the direction of Andijan. Barak is administratively part of KYRGYZSTAN district in Kyrgyzstan's Osh region. There are 4 Uzbek enclaves within Kyrgyzstan. 2 of them are towns of Sok with an area of 325 kilometers square and population of 42,800 in 1993, although estimates go as high as 70,000. 99% are Tajiks, remainder Uzbeks, and Shakamardan, Shohimadan or Sharimadan, with an area of 90 kilometers square and population of 5,100 in 1993. 91% are Uzbeks, and remaining 9% are KYRGYZ. The other 2 are tiny territories of Chongkara, 3 kilometers long by 1 kilometer, and Jangi Isle, a dot of land barely 2 to 3 kilometers across. Chongkara is on Sok River between Uzbek border and Sok enclave. Jangi Isle is about 60 kilometers east of Batken in northward projection of KYRGYZ Uzbek border near Kalmian. There are also 2 enclaves belonging to Tajikistan on KYRGYZ Tajik border, Vorak and Lolaza. Vorak has an area between 95 to 130 kilometers square and population between 23,000 to 29,000, 95% Tajiks and 5% KYRGYZ. It is distributed among 17 villages and located 45 kilometers south of Isfara on the right bank of River Karavshin. Lolaza, Western Kalacha or Kayrgyak, is a small settlement near KYRGYZ railway station of Kayrgyak. Agriculture is an important sector of the economy in Kyrgyzstan. By early 1990s, the private agricultural sector provided between 1/3 and 1/2 of some harvests. Kyrgyzstan's terrain is mountainous, which accommodates livestock raising, which is the largest agricultural activity, thus resulting wool, meat, dairy products as major commodities. Main crops include wheat, sugar beets, potatoes, cotton, tobacco, vegetables, and fruit. As prices of imported agrochemicals and petroleum are so high, much farming is being done by hand and horse, as it was generations ago. Agricultural processing is a key component of the industrial economy as well as one of the most attractive sectors for foreign investment. Kyrgyzstan is rich in mineral resources but has negligible petroleum and natural gas reserves. It imports petroleum and gas. Among its mineral reserves are substantial deposits of coal, gold, uranium, antimony, and other valuable metals. Metallurgy is an important industry and the government hopes to attract foreign investment in this field. The government has actively encouraged foreign involvement in extracting and processing gold from Kumta Gold Mine and other regions. The country's plentiful water resources and mountainous terrain enable it to produce and export large quantities of hydroelectric energy. The principal exports are non-ferrous metals and minerals, woolen goods and other agricultural products, electric energy and certain engineering goods. Imports include petroleum and natural gas, ferrous metals, chemicals, most machinery, wood and paper products, foods and construction materials. Its leading trade partners include Germany, Russia, China, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Kyrgyzstan ranked 78th among countries for economic freedom by the Heritage Institute. One of the most popular tourist destination points in Kyrgyzstan is Lake Issyk-Kul. Numerous hotels, resorts and boarding houses are located along its northern shore. The most popular beach zones are in the city of Cholponata and the settlements nearby such as Karaoy, Delinka, Bostary and Kurumdi. The number of tourists visiting the lake was more than 1 million a year in 2006 and 2007. However, due to the economic and political instability in the region, the number has declined in recent years. The headquarters of KYRGYZ Academy of Sciences located in Bishkek where several research institutes are located. KYRGYZ researchers developing useful technologies based on natural products such as heavy metal remediation for purifying wastewater. Kyrgyzstan ranked 99th in the Global Innovation Index in 2024. Kyrgyzstan's population estimated at 6,586,600 in August 2020. Of those, 34.4% are under age 15 and 6.2% are over 65. The country is rural, only 1/3 of the population live in urban areas. The average population density is 25 people per kilometer square. The nation's largest ethnic group are KYRGYZ, a Turkic people comprise 77.8% of the population. Other ethnic groups include Russians, 3.8%, concentrated in the north and Uzbeks, 14.2%, living in the south. Small but noticeable minorities include Dungans, Tajiks, Uyghurs, Kazakhs and other smaller ethnic minorities. The country has over 80 ethnic groups. The KYRGYZ have historically been semi-nomadic herders, living in round tents called yurts and tending sheep, horses and yaks. This nomadic tradition continues to function seasonally as herding families return to the high mountain pasture, or Jailu, in the summer. The sedentary Uzbeks and Tajiks traditionally have farmed lower-lying irrigated land in Fergana Valley. Kyrgyzstan undergone a pronounced change in its ethnic composition since independence. The percentage of ethnic KYRGYZ has increased from around 50% in 1979 to over 70% in 2013, while the percentage of ethnic groups such as Russians, Ukrainians, Germans, and Tatars dropped from 35% to about 7%. Since 1991, large number of Germans, who in 1989 numbered 101,000 persons, have emigrated to Germany. KYRGYZ is the state language of Kyrgyzstan. Russian is additionally an official language. Kyrgyzstan is one of 5 former Soviet republics to have Russian as a de jure official language, along with Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Tajikistan. After the dissolution of Soviet Union, KYRGYZ was adopted as the state language of Kyrgyzstan in 1991. Kyrgyzstan adopted Russian as an official language in 2000. The languages have different legal statuses. Islam is the dominant religion of Kyrgyzstan and most KYRGYZ. CIA World Factbook estimates as of 2017, 90% of the population is Muslim with majority being Sunni. 7% Christian including 3% Russian Orthodoxy and remainder other religions. 2009 Pew Research Center report indicated 86.3% of Kyrgyzstan's population adhering to Islam. Great majority of Muslims are Sunni adhering to Hanafi school of thought, although 2012 Pew survey report showed only 23% of respondents to a questionnaire chose to identify themselves as Sunni, with 64% volunteering that they were just Muslim. There are a few Ahmadiyya Muslims, though unrecognized by the country. Later figures show a rise in the number of Muslims in the country. During Soviet times, state atheism was encouraged. Today, however, Kyrgyzstan is a secular state, although Islam exerted a growing influence in politics. Other faiths practiced in Kyrgyzstan include Russian Orthodox and Ukrainian Orthodox versions of Christianity, practiced by Russians and Ukrainians respectively. A community of 5,000 to 10,000 Jehovah's Witnesses gather in both KYRGYZ and Russian-speaking congregations, as well as some Chinese and Turkish-speaking groups. A small minority of ethnic Germans, mostly Lutheran and Anabaptist, as well as Roman Catholic community of approximately 600. As part of historic Kyrgyzstan German minority, there were around 200 Mennonites in Kyrgyzstan in 2022. One Mennonite community continues in the settlement of Rotfront. A few animistic traditions survive, as do influences from Buddhism such as tying of prayer flags onto sacred trees, though some view this practice rooted within Sufi Islam. There is also a small number of Bukharian Jews living in Kyrgyzstan, but during the collapse of Soviet Union, most fled to other countries, mainly United States and Israel. In addition, there is a small community of Ashkenazi Jews, who fled to the country from Eastern Europe during the Second World War. Traditional national sports reflect the importance of horse riding in KYRGYZ culture. Very popular, as in all of Central Asia, is Ulak Tartish, a team game resembling a cross between polo and rugby, in which two teams of riders wrestle for possession of the headless carcass of a goat, which they attempt to deliver across the opposition's goal line or into the opposition's goal, a big tub or a circle marked on the ground. Other popular games on horseback include at Chabish, a long-distance horse race more than 50 kilometers. Jumbi Artmai is a large bar of precious metal jumbi tied to a pole by thread, and contestants attempt to break the thread by shooting at it while galloping. KYZ Kumai is man chases girl in order to win a kiss from her while she gallops away. If he is not successful, she may in turn chase him and attempt to beat him with her Kamkai horsewhip. Udarish is two contestants wrestle on horseback, each attempting to be the first to throw the other from his horse. Tying Amay is picking up a coin from the ground at full gallop. Transport in Kyrgyzstan is severely constrained by the country's alpine topography. Roads have to snake up steep valleys, cross passes of 3,000 meters altitude and more, and subject to frequent mudslides and snow avalanches. Winter travel is close to impossible in many of remote and high-altitude regions. Additional problems that many roads and railway lines built during Soviet period are today intersected by international boundaries, requiring time-consuming border formalities to cross where they are not completely closed. Horses are still much used transport option, especially in rural areas. Kyrgyzstan's road infrastructure is not extensive, so horses are able to reach locations that motor vehicles cannot, and they do not require expensive, imported fuel. At the end of the Soviet period, there were about 50 airports and airstrips in Kyrgyzstan. Many of them built to serve military purposes in border region close to China. Only a few remain in service today. Kyrgyzstan Air Company provides air transport to China, Russia, and other local countries. Manas International Airport near Bishkek is the main international airport with services to Moscow, Tashkent, Almaty, Uremi, Istanbul, Baku, and Dubai. Osh Airport is the main air terminal in the south of the country with daily connections to Bishkek and services to Moscow, Krasnoyarsk, Almaty, and more international places. Jalalabad Airport is linked to Bishkek by daily flights. The national flag carrier, Kyrgyzstan, operates flights on BAE 146 aircraft. During summer months, weekly flight links Jalalabad with Issyk-Kul region. Other facilities built during Soviet era are either closed down, used only occasionally, or restricted to military use. Kant Air Base near Bishkek, which is used by Russian Air Force. Chui Valley in the north and Fergana Valley in the south were endpoints of the Soviet Union's rail system in Central Asia. Following the emergence of independent post-Soviet states, the rail lines, which were built without regard for administrative boundaries, have been cut by borders, and traffic is therefore severely curtailed. The small bits of rail lines within Kyrgyzstan, about 370 kilometers in total, have little economic value in the absence of the former bulk traffic over long distances to and from such centers as Tashkent, Almaty, and cities of Russia. In 2022, construction began on a new 186 kilometers extension of the existing railway from Balaki to Karakesh. Its purpose is to carry coal from mines at Karakesh to Bishkek. With support from Asian Development Bank, a major road linking the north and southwest of the country from capital city of Bishkek to Osh has completed. This considerably eases communication between the two major population centers of the country, Chui Valley in the north and Fergana Valley in the south. An offshoot of this road branches off across a 3,500-meter pass into Talas Valley in the northwest. KYRGYZ state reached its greatest expansion after defeating Ughur Khaganate in 840 AD. From 10th century, KYRGYZ migrated as far as Tian Shan Range and maintained their dominance over this territory for about 200 years. There is a storytelling tradition of Epic of Manas which involves a warrior who unified all of the scattered tribes into a single nation in 9th century. In 12th century, KYRGYZ dominion had shrunk to Altai Range and Sion Mountains as a result of Mongol expansion. With the rise of Mongol Empire in 13th century, KYRGYZ migrated south. KYRGYZ peacefully became part of Mongol Empire in 1207. Issyk-Kul Lake was a stopover on Silk Road, a land route for traders, merchants, and other travelers from Far East to Europe. KYRGYZ tribes were overrun in 17th century by Mongols, in mid-18th century by Manchu-led Qing dynasty of China, and in early 19th century by Uzbek Khanate of Kokand. In 1842, KYRGYZ tribes broke away from Kokand and united into Kara KYRGYZ Khanate, led by Orman Khan. Following Orman's death in 1854, Khanate disintegrated. In late 19th century, the eastern part of what is today Kyrgyzstan, mainly Issyk-Kul region, was ceded to Russian Empire by Qing China through Treaty of Tarbagatay. The territory, then known in Russian as Kyrgyzia, was formally incorporated into the empire in 1876. Russian takeover was met with numerous revolts, and many of KYRGYZ opted to relocate to Pamir Mountains and Afghanistan. In addition, the suppression of 1916 rebellion against Russian rule in Central Asia caused many KYRGYZ later to migrate to China. Since many ethnic groups in the region were and still are split between neighboring states at a time when borders were more porous and less regulated, it was common to move back and forth over the mountains, depending on where life was perceived as better. This might mean better rains for pasture or better government during oppression. Soviet power initially established in the region in 1919 and KYRGYZ Autonomous Oblast was created within Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. The phrase Kara Kyrgyz was used until mid-1920s by Russians to distinguish them from Kazakhs, who were also referred to as Kyrgyz. On the 5th of December, 1936, Kyrgyz Soviet Socialist Republic was established as a constituent Union Republic of Soviet Union. After Russian Civil War, the period of new economic policy began, which lasted to 1928. The Bolsheviks made an effort to establish a standardized tax system with higher taxes for nomads to discourage the wandering livelihood, and they divided the Central Asia region into 5 nation-states. Kyrgyzstan developed considerably in cultural, educational, and social life. Literacy was greatly improved. Economic and social development also was notable. Under Stalin, a great focus put on KYRGYZ national identity. The Soviet state was fighting tribalism. Its social organization based on patrilineal kinship contradicted the concept of modern nation-state. In a region that did not previously know national institutions or consciousness, the process of nation-building was from the indigenous perspective, a difficult and ambivalent one. By end of 1920s, Soviet Union developed series of 5-year plans, centered around industrialization and collectivization of agriculture, including creation of huge kolkhoz collective farming systems, needed to feed the new workers in the industries. Because of the plan's reliance on rapidity, major economic and cultural changes had to occur which led to conflicts. In Kyrgyzstan, Russian settlers acquired the best pasture land, creating much hardship for most of its original inhabitants, Kazakh, KYRGYZ and Turkmen nomads, who were forced to settle down on soil that had not enough agricultural potential. The changes caused unrest, and between 1928 and 1932, nomads and peasants made it clear through methods like passive resistance that they did not agree with these policies. In the Kyrgyzia area also guerrilla opposition occurred. The region suffered relatively more deaths from collectivization than any other.